Okay, here we go. Good evening. I'd like to go ahead and call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. We will also be having an Overlay District Board and Transportation Board meeting this evening as well. We do have a quorum present. The first item would be to consider the minutes of the November 15th, 2022 Planning and Zoning Commission joint meeting. If I have no additions or corrections, may I have a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Motion by Karen.
Second.
Please remember to hit the button when you do your motions and your seconds.
Thank you. Second.
It's by Aram. Vote now. Okay, this is not working for me. Motion passes 6-0. The next item is a regular hearing. It is the final plat of the Green Centerpiece Edition, Lot 1X, Block A, on 37.92 acres out of the Philemon Higgins Survey, abstract number 526, and the A.J. Chowning Survey, abstract number 1638, zoned agricultural open space district, located north of the future Corporate Drive extension, approximately 1,400 feet south of State Highway 121 business.
Good evening, Commissioners. Staff has reviewed the final plat and disapproved it for the deficiencies listed. Staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission disapprove the final plat of Green Centerpiece Lot 1X Block A addition for the deficiencies listed and delegate to staff the authority to accept and approve the plat once the listed deficiencies are corrected. The approved plat will be brought to the chair for signature.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. Are there any questions or concerns from the Commission regarding this item? Okay, then if there are none, may I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to disapprove the final plat and then delegate to the staff once the listed deficiencies are corrected.
Motion's by Francis.
I'll second.
Second's by Robert. Vote now. Motion passes 6-0. The next item is the regular hearing, final plat of the Green Centerpiece Edition Lots 1X Block B on 6.602 acres out of the Philemon Higgins Survey, abstract number 526, and the A.J. Chowning Survey, abstract number 1638, zoned agricultural open space district, approximately 2,100 feet south of State Highway 121 business, this lot being the extension of the future Corporate Drive.
Staff has reviewed the final plat and disapproved it for the deficiencies listed. Staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission disapprove the final plat of Green Centerpiece Lot 1X Block B addition for the deficiencies listed and delegate to staff the authority to accept and approve the plat once the listed deficiencies are corrected. The approved plat will be brought to the chair for signature.
Thank you, Joe. Any other concerns or questions on this item? And if not, then may I have a motion, please?
I move to disapprove the final plat and delegate to staff the ability to accept once listed deficiencies are corrected.
Motion is by Aram.
Second.
Second by Francis. Vote now. Motion passes 6-0. The next item is a regular hearing of the final plat of Green Centerpiece Edition Lots 1X Block C on 113.5 acres out of the Philemon Higgins Survey, abstract number 526, and the Patrick O'Leary Survey, abstract number 974, zoned agricultural open space district, approximately 2,200 feet south of State Highway 121 business.
Commissioners, the staff has reviewed the final plat and disapproved it for the deficiencies listed. Staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission disapprove the final plat of Green Centerpiece Lot 1X Block C addition for the deficiencies listed and delegate to staff the authority to accept and approve the plat once the listed deficiencies are corrected. The approved plat will be brought to the chair for signature.
Thank you, Joe. Any additional corrections, questions, concerns? And if not, may I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to disapprove the final plat, delegate to staff the ability to accept and approve the final plat once the listed deficiencies are corrected.
Okay, thank you, Robert.
Second.
Second by Karen. Vote now. Motion passes 6-0. The next item is a regular hearing, the final plat of a TRG Main Street Addition, Lot 1, Block A, on 3.692 acres out of the J.W. Craft Survey, abstract number 295, zoned Old Town Mixed Use District, located at 400 West Main Street, being a replat of HCA and TBC Lewisville Edition, Lot 1, Block A.
Good evening, Commissioners. Staff has reviewed this final plat and found a list of deficiency based on Chapter 9.5 to Old Town Development Regulations. Staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission disapprove the final plat of the TRG Main Street Edition for the deficiencies listed and delegate to staff the ability to approve the plat once they have been corrected.
Thank you, Jonathan. Any questions? May I have a motion then, please?
Move to disapprove the final plat and delegate to staff ability to accept once the listed deficiencies are corrected.
Motion by Aram.
Second.
Second by Karen. Vote now. Motion passes 6-0. The next items on the agenda are for public hearings. It is my understanding that we are going to open the public hearing and continue it. Is that correct?
That is correct, Madam Chair. Both public hearings do need to be opened and continued to the December 20th meeting.
Okay.
Do
So,
we need a motion to continue?
Correct, we do. So we'll open each one individually.
Okay. Great, thank you. Okay, so the first public hearing is consideration of a zone change request from agricultural open space district to planned development mixed use on approximately 7.94 acres out of the El Bourgeois Survey, abstract number 52, located at 301 and 333 Euchre Lane, as requested by Patricia Font McAdams on behalf of Euchre Lane LLC and Vent and Caramana Mirari, the property owners. At this time, I will go ahead and open the public hearing, and anyone wishing to speak on this item may do so, but we will be continuing and having another public hearing on this item on December the 20th. Having no one come forward, I will go ahead now and close this public hearing and entertain a motion to continue this item.
Pardon me, Madam Chair, we need to leave the hearing open until the 20th.
Oh, we need to leave it open. I see. Okay, so I will not close this public hearing. We will leave it open till the 20th. And I will entertain a motion then to continue this item.
Move to continue. Oh,
Sorry about that.
Francis.
No, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
move to continue.
Second.
Motion by Karen, second by Francis. Vote now. Motion passes 6-0. The next public hearing is a consideration of a zone change request from Plan Development Multifamily 3 District to Plan Development Estate Townhouse District on an approximately 16.719 acre tract of land out of the A. Singleton Survey, abstract number 1138, located at the northwest corner of Lady Tesla Avenue and the Essex Drive Extension as requested by Brian Dench, P.E. of Land Design, Inc., on behalf of Eric Stanley of Breco Lands, C.H. LLC, the property owner. At this time, I will go ahead and open the public hearing on this item. Anyone wishing to speak on this item may come forward, understanding that we will also have this continued till December the 20th. Okay, we'll be leaving this public hearing open, and now I would entertain a motion on that request.
Make a motion to continue this public hearing to December 20th.
Motion by Robert,
Second.
second by Ryan.
I think Ryan got it first.
I beat you. I'll second the motion.
Okay, Ryan. Vote now. Motion passes 6-0.
And I'd-
Before we adjourn, Michelle has an introduction to make.
Yes, Commissioners, I'd like to introduce you all to our newest planning staff member. She's our newest planner. Her name is Lexi Barnett. She comes to us from the city of Flower Mound, or the town of Flower Mound, excuse me. And she also has a bachelor's in urban policy and planning from the University of North Texas. So expect to see her at our future meetings, and we're happy to have her on our team.
Well, welcome, Lexi.
Welcome to the better side.
Okay, and at this time, I will call for a motion for adjournment, please.
Move to adjourn.
Motion is by Karen,
Second.
second by Francis. Vote now. Motion passes 6-0. We are adjourned. The next item for this evening is the Overlay District Board. We will call that to order now, and we do have a quorum present. The first item is to consider the minutes of the November 15th, 2022 Overlay District Board joint meeting. If there are no corrections or questions, may I please have a motion on this item?
Move to approve.
Motion by Aaron,
Second.
second by Francis. Vote now. Motion passes 6-0. The next item is the consideration of one alternative standard associated with facade materials for cigars on 35, located at 1980 South Stemmons Freeway, as requested by William Peck of William Peck Associates on behalf of Gaurang Patel of Cigars on 35, the property owner.
Good evening, Commissioners. The applicant desires to make facade changes to the vacant building at 1980 South Stemmons, originally occupied by a barbecue restaurant, and more recently, the restaurant Kyoto. Facade changes are proposed to modernize the architecture. The applicant is required to comply with the I-35 overlay standards. The staff has reviewed the plans, and one alternative standard is required. That alternative standard is to allow 53% brick and stone on the street-facing facades in lieu of the required 80%. Buildings within the I-35 overlay transition district are required to have each exterior wall be at least 80% brick or stone. The applicant is proposing to have a total of 52% of the total, or 53% of the total facade be brick or stone. The southwest facade will be 40%, 84% on the southeast facade, 64% on the northeast, and 74% on the northwest. The applicant desires to use a wooden style siding for 37% of the facade for a clean, modern design that fits their business and supports a larger variety of potential future uses with that architecture. The building currently consists of wooden siding, metal siding, and stone. And I'll kind of show you all here, if y'all can see what they're looking to do. And so with that, staff's recommendation is that the Overlay District Board recommend approval of the alternative standards as presented to the City Council. And also, if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them, and the applicant is here for any questions as well.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. Is this going to be a restaurant, food service, or just what I saw, a bar and lounge?
I believe the applicant can probably answer that a little bit
Okay.
better. To my knowledge, I know that cigars are involved. The business name is Cigars on 35.
Yeah.
But
It's in
they
the
could probably
name.
answer that a little bit better.
Okay. If you want to come forward, Mr. Peck?
Thank y'all.
Evening,
Thank you.
Commission. William
William Peck, Peck Architects, 105 West Main. Yes, there will be food involved. I think it's even part of the ordinance, but, you know, they have, I believe it's 8 or more menu items, and a chef's already been hired, so
Okay, great.
they're ready to go.
All right, and will there be cigar sales on this property, or you bring your own, or how's that work?
For what part?
For cigars, are they gonna be sold on the property, or
Yes.
you bring your own, or how's that? I was
No,
just curious.
Yeah, they're gonna be sold on the property.
Okay, all
They have
right.
a large humidor.
Okay,
Walk in?
Yeah, very.
you have to be, I suppose. Okay.
Any other questions?
I don't have any other questions. Does anyone else have any questions on this item? All
Very
right,
interesting.
yeah,
Like a
Thank you.
cigar
Something
lounge
different.
instead of a hookah lounge.
yeah. Thank you, Mr. Peck. Okay, may I have a motion on this item if there are no other questions or discussion?
I move to approve alternate standard A as presented.
Motion by Aram,
I'll second.
second by Robert. Vote now. Motion passes 6-0.
Commissioners, this item will be considered by the City Council for a final decision on Monday, January the 9th, 2023 at 7 o'clock p.m.
Wow, 2023, okay.
Already there.
At this time, may I have a motion to adjourn the Overlay District Board?
Move to adjourn. Sorry. You're just too quick, Erin. Second.
Second by Francis.
Quick on the draw.
Vote now. Motion passes 6-0. We are adjourned for the Overlay District Board. I'd like to call the Transportation Board to order, and we do have a quorum present, and Jonathan has an announcement to make, or an introduction to make?
Oh, he was just getting the, yeah, he was queuing up.
Oh, okay.
I do want to make another introduction. I would like to introduce our new traffic engineer, Sirwan Shahui. He's been with us about a month and a half. He comes from TxDOT, and he really brings a wealth of knowledge. Not only does he have a PhD in civil engineering, he also has a master's in urban planning, which makes us very happy since both disciplines are so intertwined.
Yes.
So he brings a wealth of experience and just knowing the insides or knowing the interworkings of TxDOT is also something very valuable for the city. So please welcome Sirwan.
Welcome,
Welcome,
Sirwan.
Sirwan.
Work for the residents of this Lewisville.
Thank you.
So
Okay.
he'll be a permanent fixture when we have T-board meetings.
Okay, great, great. All right, and the first item here now is to consider the minutes of the November 1st, 2022 Transportation Board Joint Meeting. And if there are no additions or corrections, may I have a motion for the minutes, please?
Move to approve.
Motion by Robert,
Second.
second by Karen.
Francis is like, nope, I'm off.
Vote now. And motion passes 6-0. Now, Jonathan. The next item is the recommendation of an approval of an amendment to the Complete Streets Policy. Take it away, Jonathan.
Good evening, Transportation Board. I am obviously so excited to bring you this Complete Streets Policy update. We've been working on this for about a year at this point. I wanted to give a quick presentation tonight just to quickly go over exactly what Complete Streets are. I know there's a few members now. I wanted to talk about existing Complete Street projects here in Lewisville and then exactly what we're doing with this updated policy. So real quick, a complete street is essentially the public right-of-way that allows for all types of users to use our roadway the way they want to, all the way from kids walking to school to emergency responders and freight. There's a lot of different components of complete streets. It's not just the pavement, sidewalks, bike lanes. It also includes curbside management, how everyone wants to utilize or access the curbs, all the way to infrastructure and how all these elements kind of are all combined in our public right-of-way and making sure that we can adequately design to make sure all users can use it. So it's important to note that there's a lot of different ways a complete street can look. There's no singular design, and it all really is context sensitive. So a complete street in a residential neighborhood can look a lot different from a complete street in a business district. And it's just important that we're looking at what's the context, what are the users that should be using this. Obviously, you don't need a bicyclist on a highway or anything like that. So it's important to know that we're looking at the context there. So there's a multitude of benefits to complete streets, and I honestly could talk about this for 30 more minutes, but I'll be brief. So first is just mobility of users, as I mentioned already, pedestrians to freight, and everyone in between. There's a lot of health benefits tied to complete streets. Just people in walkable neighborhoods tend to do more active or get more exercise than people who don't live in walkable neighborhoods. Safety is a huge concern. Right now, there's an epidemic of pedestrian fatalities happening in the country. What's interesting is during COVID, when the daily traffic went down, pedestrian deaths and pedestrian incidents actually still went up because people were still getting hit. There's less cars, they were moving faster and striking pedestrians. So it's important that we keep in mind and try to create a safe environment if a pedestrian wants to utilize the public right-of-way. It's estimated that pedestrian deaths has risen 11.5% from 2019 till today. Dallas-Fort Worth is the 44th most dangerous metropolitan statistical area. What's a little heartening there is last time I gave this presentation, we were 31st, so we're getting better. Obviously, CPTED's a component of complete streets. That's crime prevention through environmental design. Essentially, if you have more people utilize an area, the safer it will be, including things like pedestrian lighting. Equity is a huge component of complete streets. People of color are less likely to own a car, and only that, the cost of a car, the last number I looked at for, well, it's Dallas County, so it's close-ish, but it's $11,500 a year to maintain a vehicle, and that's a huge amount of money that if there's a benefit that a household could go down to a one-car household, I know it's impossible to really think that we could go to a no-car household, but if we could go down to a one-car household, that could alleviate a huge financial burden on Lewisville residents. Finally, there's a lot of economic benefits, such as the car. An interesting thing is bicyclists spend more money in the local economy than automobile users, everywhere but grocery stores. Obviously, there's healthcare benefits, and projects that have complete streets element actually bring more jobs to a community. It was 11.4 jobs versus 9.6 on just roadway projects. So, quick history of complete streets in Lewisville. So in 2011, we made complete streets part of the Main and Mill project. This was with North Texas Council of Governments grant. And then in 2017, we did our first complete streets policy, which I'll get into. That was adopted to qualify for additional COG funding, but since COG has said that our policy no longer meets their standards. And then in 2020, Councilwoman Green pitched for equitable mobility at the 2020 council retreat. Real quick with just very successful complete streets policy, I already mentioned it, the Main and Mill, I'm sure we're all very aware of it. The important thing with this is we went down a lane of traffic, we added continuous sidewalks, bike lanes, everything. And I know whenever we're looking to remove a lane of traffic, people get a little worried that we're really impeding the flow. But by doing this, we didn't affect the average daily traffic at all. We just opened it up for additional types of users to use this area safely. And we've since had other complete streets policies in the Old Town area, and we're looking at doing another one along Southwest Parkway in the Triangle. So we've always been doing complete streets, or we have been recently. We just want to make sure that we're formalizing this process. So finally, the complete street update. So this is proposed to go to council on December 19th. The main thing this policy has done is the first policy really only required that we look at complete streets within our Old Town area and within our TOD areas. So this new policy is saying any street project that is construction, reconstruction, or retrofitting, we're going to look at doing complete streets first. And if we're not doing complete streets, then there has to be a written reason. The city engineer has to have a written reason why we're not doing complete streets in our projects. And there's a list of exceptions in this policy. So they actually have to follow one of the exceptions written into here. But as a default, we will always look at complete streets. And we'll always look at doing our roadway projects in a disadvantaged neighborhood first, as they will get priority now. So making sure that we are being equitable with our CIP projects regarding our public right-of-way. And then also we're adding performance measures to the complete streets to make sure that we're actually reporting the benefits of this. And so those listed performance measures are in the updated policy, and it will allow for new funding opportunities. I've already sent this to the Council of Governments, and they've confirmed that this will qualify for the next policy bundle, as well as other funding opportunities that would require that we have some sort of complete streets policy. I did want to note that the complete streets policy I put in the packet is a little different from what we're seeing in the council. The one that was set in the packet also included resurfacing projects for complete streets, but we didn't want to start public hearing processes, all of that for just resurfacing. So I took that out, and now it's just construction, reconstruction, or retrofitting. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. So on the exceptions, number 2, it says where the cost or impacts of implementation is disproportionate to the actual need or probable future use of the facility. So what's kind of the measuring stick when like a developer is coming in and saying, all right, I want to put this stuff in, including a street, and then the city says, okay, well, you need to make sure you have bike lanes and all these other things, and the developer says, oh, that's going to break my budget.
Sure.
How do you guys, under the exception, how do you guys measure the city's desire to have complete street versus the developer trying to meet his budget for his, what he's trying to build?
Sure. So first, just to be clear, this typically will be public projects.
Okay.
So developer that usually stops at the right-of-way line. Now, with our Unified Development Code, we are asking for developers to provide wider sidewalks, but a lot of these elements will be more in like capital improvement projects.
Okay.
Now, as far as saying, hey, where do we need this? Well, we have a lot of plans already that this complete street is just tying into. So we have the Parks Master Plan, which that's being updated right now, the Trail Master Plan, which has pedestrian spines, bike spines, all these elements. So essentially, like the Southwest Parkway project that staff is working on now, we look at these other plans that say, hey, we've already designated this as a bicycle spine. So when we're doing a CIP project, we want to make sure that we're including that as a complete street, as well as the Sustainability Master Plan and the Thoroughfare Plan, which in the next few years will be updated as well as a proposed mobility plan. So there's kind of a lot of elements, and the complete streets is just tying, or it's just another element tying it together, making sure that we're always considering this with public projects.
So when we're building a new street, I mean, what's the cost difference for us in a normal street versus a complete street? Like, is it a complete streets are on 10% more expensive to make, or?
I don't have any percentage, Sirwan. I don't know if you can weigh in on just a typical percentage difference, but it is more. It's going to be more expensive in the design, especially. A lot of these we're going to have to change exactly where the curb is at, so it's going to be much more expensive. But also, it's a huge investment that wouldn't need to be updated in the future. So it's really investing in the public right-of-way, allowing more uses to make sure that we're getting ahead of any future problems as well.
So monetary effects of a completed street is not only about the money, it's about the diversity that brings to the city, aesthetic parts of the city, and the health that brings to the city, and pleasant environment that makes for the city. Although we can convert all these effects in long term, so when we say cost to benefit analysis, definitely we will have more costs, but there are also, remember, there are many grants right now out there, federal budgets, state budgets that are paying for such improvements, for bike lanes, for adding completed street parameters. So on the other hand, so I want to emphasize, I cannot promise it's not going to take any further money from the city budget, but I promise that it works for the city, because most of the money we can provide from different grants, different funds, and also the benefits in long term for residents, for changing the environment. And to be honest, as a new employee, I have been to different locations, different cities. My work in Texas, I was in Dallas district, so I have been visiting different cities. The complete street projects in Lewisville, they have done a great job. I know Jonathan has put a lot of time and effort on this, and I really appreciate it. And I personally, I try to continue this trend and continue this, what they have done. But generally, my suggestion is not to look at it as just a monetary aspect, but the non-monetary health, diversity, and placemaking of these type of projects.
Quality of life.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a quality of life issue.
And another thing to note is a lot of these benefits, like to environmental, the shade, how it really facilitates different types. Sometimes it's hard to quantify exactly what that is to location, but they certainly have additional benefits.
Okay, thank you.
And one additional point, I think what Robert was speaking to, maybe even item 3, is have you run into right-of-way issues on some of these to where you need additional right-of-way, or is that a request sometimes that's asked of any adjacent owner, developer, to allow you to widen a section to get the sidewalks and the greenscape and things of that status? Because I know that's, but I did notice in your presentation that you've actually gone inbound of some of these streets, taken a lane out and went internal, which is, in my opinion, pretty unusual, but it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think right now, the way our thoroughfare plan has worked, and we have a lot of right-of-way. I keep reading up this, I wish I had additional detail on it, but like the Southwest Parkway, we're dealing with a lot of right-of-way that it actually has 18-foot travel lanes for a 2-lane road. So that's a lot of wiggle room, and you're really allowing cars to speed quickly. So I think in a lot of these areas, we already have the right-of-way. We're not gonna need additional. It's just that we've developed in a manner that's really only thought of cars up until 2011. So now we're using what we already have in small projects. This is something that you'll just see over time with a lot of small projects and CIP projects, how they go. But we're just able to utilize what we have. I'm not aware of any projects regarding complete streets that we had to get it. Well, I believe at the Main and Mill, there was some right away on that one with the business owners.
But you were successful in that, obviously, right? And
right,
paid
exactly.
dividends, yeah.
I'm sure we all took Main or Mill to get here tonight. So, and we can all see how successful that's been. And if you drove on Mill before then, it feels completely different. And I think we're really going to see we are seeing the benefits to these businesses that were along there.
Definitely. Feels very different.
Yeah.
Is there a model city that you all are using to model after that has this complete streets?
Sure. So when I began writing the policy, there was only a few cities in the area that had a complete streets policy. It was Dallas, Fort Worth, and Weatherford. Now, when I was developing the complete street policy, Smart Growth America has 10 elements. It's an organization that provides professional expertise, the cities, and they had a list of 10 elements of what you should have in complete streets policy. I worked with the COG to make sure that we're including all the elements that they would think. So a lot of research went into this policy to make sure that we're including everything we need. But I think you'll find a lot of communities are moving towards complete streets. It really just became a thing really after 2010, but every year there's a lot more that are looking at doing this because everyone's looking at the benefit that is just trying to get additional transportation users to be able to use the right of way. So,
just out of curiosity, has any infrastructure, drainage, storm lines, and things of that nature come into play at all here as far as some of the other detriments to, simply what you see on top is often what people react to, but you had any issues moving storm inlets and things like that?
Sorry, I keep interrupting people. My apologies. So a big thing with the Unified Development Code is before our code only allowed for storm or sewer and water to be in the greenway adjacent to the road, and now we're allowing that to be underneath the actual street itself. Obviously, it's a little more difficult to work on, but that really opens up what we can allow as far as street trees, things such as that. Now, as far as drainage, I know at the Main and Mill, we looked at rain gardens, and that's kind of tying with the Sustainability Master Plan to just look at additional ways that we can have sustainable drainage, things such as that. But obviously, utilities are one of the biggest hurdles when doing a complete streets policy, especially like electrical lines such as that. But I mean, that's a big thing we look into.
Yeah, and there's one photo I believe you showed that I think I picked up on it. There was a few curb cuts. Is that what the rain garden access was through some of those curbs?
Right. So if we're looking at this, the before and after, you can see the rain garden right there along that area. And I think maybe in this one too, you can kind of see it here, allowing more natural, a way for that the rainwater to get into the actual water table easier.
That's great. It's a creative solution.
And that was made possible with a grant. So that's why we're able to do those. That sustainability initiative there was a specific grant for that.
Any more questions or discussion?
No, looks great.
Looks awesome.
Well,
Good
yeah,
job.
one more question. So basically, it's for streets that are going to need repair anyways and are going to need a rework. When we go in to rework them, we're going to say, okay, we're going to take this street from being a 4-lane street and maybe we shrink it down to a 3-lane street and add all these other things into it. It's not that we're proactively going in and tearing up like perfectly working streets right now to replace them with complete streets. Like, how does that work?
So, again, I'll talk about Southwest Parkway. So that's an area that it's in the Triangle in Lewisville. It's a high dense area with a lot of low-income residents. There's an initiative with the 10-minute walk to a park to include more parkland, which the city bought a parcel of land along there to, maybe I can bring up a map, to have a city park. Now, there's an opportunity for some public funds to, because what we wanted to do, I'm trying to talk and type. So what we wanted to make sure is that all the users of this apartment complex could easily get across the street. And that's one of those areas where the speed limit was 35, but because you have 18-foot drive lanes, people go 40, 45 in that area. So we wanted to make sure that we saw the opportunity for some funding to slow down the traffic naturally with street trees, make those lanes a lot tighter. You can really have, I think we're moving them to 11-foot lanes. So that's a pretty significant reduction in, okay, so the maps is not working. That's a pretty significant reduction in how, so we're trying to naturally slow down as well as maybe utilize a hot crossing or some good pedestrian, where the pedestrians can cross that street. So that's just one example of where the city was proactive. So if you can kind of see this map, the city brought this property right here for a public park, and just this stretch, we're looking at doing a complete street policy, and we're able to get funding for the design of that, but then, we'll obviously look for a design to actually build that in the future. But that's just one example of something that's hitting all the marks of complete streets. and it's also on our Parks Master Plan, kind of working with TechSouth, they're redoing these overpasses, so all these things together to just make sure that, that all the residents in this area could get access to the park, but then utilize a public right-of-way better.
Okay, thank you.
May I add something to that question, answer? So it's not like every single project, roadway project that we have, we are going to build a complete street if it's a resurfacing, if it's a restriping. So unfortunately, we don't have the money at the first obstacle is the money. So we look for some reason. There may be different reasons. As he pointed out in Southwest Parkway, it's the safety issue. Wide streets, it has the potential. We don't need to buy any right-of-way. We can have the complete street built over there, and the design fund is safeguarded right now, and we are looking for construction. Maybe we can get the money even for construction. And then another place, maybe it's close to a park facility or some streets around Thrive. It's around Thrive, it's a sport facility and people want to bike over there. That could be. So at the end of the day, we may not, right now, based on our budget and how does it work, we may not have more than 1 or 2 projects a year. And so to answer your question, no, it's not going to be all projects, all roadways, those that they need. They don't need complete street. Either they are safe, they are way less users, they are like, nobody goes to build a complete street on Business 121. So it's a true fair corridor. So, but in future, we hope that when we start our mobility plan and think about the way we want to categorize and build our future of the roadways, we come up with kind of priority for our complete street and create a priority list that if we have the budget and it's time for renewing some roadways, these are the priority with the reason.
Okay,
I hope it has
fantastic
answered.
answer, thank you. That's what I was looking for, thanks.
So another quick anecdote here is that community input is really important for these complete streets. There's a neighborhood over by Thrive, I believe it's this neighborhood, where they have bar and ditch roads. There's no sidewalks. The city was looking at doing a capital improvement project in this area, so we were going to come and add curb and gutter, sidewalks, all that. But the residents really liked their bar ditch. They liked the feeling that the neighborhood had. That's why they bought the houses. That's what they wanted. And to them, that's what they wanted out of the public right-of-way. And in that case, we're not putting in all these elements because they felt they could safely walk, bicycle, everything in that already. So in cases like that, we decided to just resurface the street as opposed to do any major updates. So that's just kind of an example of something that happened, but anytime there's any CIP project, we're gonna look at let's look at doing complete streets policy, but we wanna make sure that it fits the context of the area.
Good. Good job.
Well done, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Anything else? I will entertain a motion then to recommend approval of an amendment to the Complete Streets policy.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the amendment to the complete street policy, and great job to those that worked on that.
Thank you. And that's one thing I didn't note is this was the work of a lot of different departments. We worked with sustainability, public services, parks, obviously engineering. So we talked to everybody to make sure that we were meeting the needs for the city of Lewisville. And then just real quick, this is proposed to go to city council on December 19th. Thank you.
Okay, so motion is by Francis,
I second.
second by Aram. Vote now. Motion passes 6-0. And now I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Aram,
Second.
second by Robert. Vote now. Motion passes 6-0. We are adjourned.